Shalom, all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahshua, double I say positive GMS. This is I'm now Allah coming at you with a video. Real quick, the reason why my video wasn't uploaded is because my phone, it was already cracked and it wound up falling in water. And when it fell in the water, the phone wasn't cutting on for days, so I wound up getting a new phone. And since I had a new phone, there was no way for me to access my old this YouTube account, because I didn't remember the password. And the last time I had used that phone, logged into my account, this YouTube account, I logged in from another brother's phone. So what happened was they would send the code to their phone, because if you're trying to log in from a different phone, it'll send the code to the phone and you have to identify it. So when I was trying to log in from my new phone, they sent the code to that brother phone, so there was no way I was even able to log in. And when I recorded this video, the video had no audio, but the brother informed me that there was no audio on the comment board, so now I got to do the video over again. So let's get right to it. 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 40. Let's continue on with the 10 tribes. 2nd Ezra chapter 13. Last verse we was on was verse 45. So the last verse we was on was verse I believe it was verse 42 maybe, or 45, but let's get right to it. 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 41. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would lead the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where mankind never dwelt. That's talking about the Americas, the Western Hemisphere of the world, where we are today. That's what it's talking about, all right? Because in this part of the world, there was no real civilizations that were set up on this side of the world. So this is where mankind never dwelt. That they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. Maybe I'll get to that in another lesson. Because when they came over, they was keeping different laws, statutes, and commandments. And they enter into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. Right, so they entered the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. So what we have to do is we have to look at a map to see where the Euphrates is located. Now, first things first, what we have to do is we have to recognize where is the Euphrates River located and where were the children of Israel at this time. Now, if you go to the last show, you understand that they was in the region of Assyria. Now, we see a world map here, but if you look at the map, you don't see Assyria here. You don't see it. Of course, it's not going to be over here, which is the Western Hemisphere. It's going to be somewhere in the Eastern Hemisphere. It's in this region here that you see close on your map. We got to find out where Assyria was located. So let's go look it up on Google. Right here it says, I went on Google, typed in where was the Assyrian Empire. It says Mesopotamia. Assyria was located in the northern part of Mesopotamia, which corresponds to most parts of modern-day Iraq, as well as parts of Iran, Kuwait, Syria, and Turkey. So we got Iraq, parts of Iran, Kuwait, Syria, and Turkey. So let's go back to that world map. Remember that. Iraq, parts of Iran, Kuwait, Syria, Turkey. So back to this map, we got to find Iraq. You see that here. You see Syria, you see Turkey, you see Iran. And right here in the middle of your screen, you see Kuwait. So this is where Assyria was located, the Assyrian Empire. Primarily in this region here. And you know it also had stretched as far to Egypt at a point. You can read about that in the book of Isaiah. But we got Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran. Because you had the Assyrian Empire, Neo-Assyrian Empire. But right here it says Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, and right here you see Kuwait. So this is the region where the Assyrian Empire was located. As a matter of fact, let's go to a map. Now this is from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Mormon website. It says the Assyrian Empire. Let's click on that. It says Ashur, which that's talking about Assyria. And you see it's the same region. This is the same region of Kuwait, Iraq, parts of Iran, Syria, and Turkey. It's that same region. And if you look at the legend right here, it says in green, Assyria about 721 BC. That was during the period of time when the children of Israel was in captivity under the Assyrian Empire. And as you can see, it says 2 Kings 17, verse 1 to 6. So we're looking at that time period of the children of Israel and where they were during that period. And right here it says Assyrian Empire about 650 BC. In other words, it expanded. See the red lines? And right there in the purple, it says Judah. And if you look at the region here in Assyria, what do you see? You see the Tigris River and you see the Euphrates. See where it says Tigris and it says Euphrates? Right under Ashur or Assyria, it says Euphrates. And just above Ashur, it says Tigris. And if you look at the Euphrates, let's go back to that scripture. Verse 43, 2 Nephthys 13, verse 43. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. So they entered into the Euphrates. They went into the Euphrates. So they was in Assyrian captivity. And then they went into the Euphrates, right? And I just want to show you something real quick. If you look here, you got that region of the Assyrian Empire right there. And if you look in the world map, it's the same place. You can't mistake it. It's the same place. To further prove that, as you see here, it says Persian Gulf, right? See, it says Persian Gulf. When you go to this map right here, it doesn't say Persian Gulf, but it says Lower Sea, Eastern Sea. But we can tell based upon the maps that this Lower Sea, Eastern Sea is talking about the Persian Gulf. We can tell. So it said they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. So they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. So they went into the Euphrates and they went by the narrow places of the river. Now what does it mean by a narrow place? The Lower East Sea or Eastern Sea is talking about what once again? It's talking about the Persian Gulf. As a matter of fact, how can we prove that? Let's see what a gulf is. Gulf, a deep inlet of the sea almost surrounded by land with a narrow mouth. So the scripture says they entered the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. Narrow, remember the word narrow. And you look at the word gulf, it says a deep inlet of the sea almost surrounded by land with a narrow mouth. So the gulf is the narrow place of the river. And it's almost surrounded by land. It's almost surrounded by land completely. Let's go back. Is this Lower Sea, Eastern Sea almost surrounded by land completely? Yes. It almost is. Because you see, it eventually goes down to a greater body of water. Let's go to the other map. See the same thing. So it's evident that the narrow place of the river is talking about the Persian Gulf, because a gulf is a deep inlet of the sea, almost surrounded by water, with a narrow mouth. Narrow places of the river, a gulf has a narrow mouth. So we know that's what it's talking about. And when you look at the word inlet, it says a small arm of the sea, a lake or a river, or a place of means of entry. So we got it. Even when you type it, look right here, it says is an inlet, land or water. An inlet is a narrow strip of water that goes from a sea or lake into the land. And as you can see, that's what the Persian Gulf does. So let's go on. Now let's go back here. This 2 Nephthys 13, verse 43 again. So we got that, right? We understand, but that that they were in the area where the Assyrian Empire was. They went into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, and the Euphrates we seen on the map leads right into the Persian Gulf, which a gulf is an area that's almost an area of water that's almost completely surrounded by land. So they enter into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, right? And the Euphrates, let's go back, as we can see here, leads right into the Persian Gulf. Euphrates, right under Ashur, leads right into the Persian Gulf. So they enter into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. So they went there. So they could have been somewhere in this region, travel all the way down to the region of Ur, or somewhere up here, Babylon, anywhere in that region. They entered right into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. And from there, the Euphrates took them right into the Lower Sea or Eastern Sea, which is known as the Persian Gulf. So they went right into there, and the Euphrates led them right into the Persian Gulf. Now, where did they go after entering the Persian Gulf? What happened next? Now, if you look here, this is a map of the various water currents throughout the planet Earth. In this region here, let's see if I can find a better map real quick. Alright, this one is better because it zooms in more. This area right here is the Persian Gulf. What you see right here, see the top left hand side of your screen, that small body of water? And I'm moving it right now to the middle. That's the Persian Gulf. Matter of fact, how can we prove that? Simple. Check this out. I'm gonna try to line the maps up the best way I can. See? Hopefully these maps are basically almost lined up completely the same. How it just, flip from one image to the next. See on all on the right side of your screen? That's the Persian Gulf. Look at the other map. Right there, all on the right side of your screen, it's the Persian Gulf. So when they entered the Euphrates, which led them right into the Persian Gulf, where did that take them? It took them right into this water current right here, known as the Agulhas current. That's the current that's in that region. Oh, well, brother, how do you know that? Simple. Let's go to the next scripture. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to go to the scripture yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this article real quick. This is from ruf.rice.edu. In order to sail around the tip of Africa, Portuguese sailors had to move against two powerful ocean flows, the Agulhas and the Benguela currents. The second swiftest current in all the world's oceans, the Agulhas is deadlier than the swiftest current, the Gulf Stream, because the Gulf Stream moves through open waters of the Atlantic. But the Agulhas travel swiftly between two bodies of land, Madagascar and Mozambique. See if I can get a map. See that? Madagascar, right here. Mozambique, right here. So it'll move right in this region here. Madagascar, between Madagascar and Mozambique. Okay? Furthermore, its waters flow in the opposite direction from which Portuguese ships needed to travel. In nearly 1,000 years of crossing the Indian Ocean, neither the Arabs nor Persians nor Arabs or the 15th century Chinese Star Fleet had ever navigated the Mozambique Channel south of Sofala, even though they were sailing with the Agulhas current. They put the word Arabs there twice. This is how Portuguese ships sailed. To sail north against the Agulhas current, that's to go upwards, the opposite region in which the children of Israel was going. It's trickier than sailing with it. Portuguese boats had to tack back and forth in a narrow band of water between the Agulhas current and the shore. For part of that journey submerged, sharp rocks abound, and modern shipping trawlers with sophisticated navigational instruments still wrecked today. The picture on the right shows the rocky coast of the South Africa today with the Agulhas current just beyond. Let's go right down to the point. Additional dangers: gale force winds up to 180 kilometers per hour, accompany cyclones which are common in the spring, September through November. Rogue waves. Even more frightening are the deadly changes that occur when the winds shift direction. When the winds begin to blow from the west and southwest, the opposite direction from the current, monster waves up to 5 stories high are known to occur. There is no way to survive such rogue waves, for even the largest vessels plummet to the ocean floor without a trace. Which I know this to be true because I read it on other sites, and I've actually looked it up in different YouTube videos. So I know some that word there, waves, is misspelled, but I've looked this stuff up on different videos on YouTube as well. So these things are actually factual. I actually watched a video on YouTube probably about 7 minutes long that said it about 125 billion 500 million liters of water flow, I believe, per second. So that's rough waters. Now, how do we know that the Agulhas current has to be something significant? Which I already looked at the water current map years ago, because I remember El Taz Dagba had mentioned it, and I was talking to the brother Lamad. He had pointed out to me that the Agulhas current was a rough current. Let's go to the scriptures. Second Esdras, chapter 13, verse 44. This is the scripture I was going to get to. For the Most High even showed signs for them. So the Most High showed them signs in the heavens, and held still the flood till they were passed over. So what does it mean the Most High held still the flood? The Most High held still those rough waters. He held still those waves until the children of Israel was passed over. Because the prophecy said they were going to go to another land. So how was they going to get to another land if they was going to get shipwrecked and die on the way there? The Most High had to hold still the flood so that the children of Israel could survive that travel. This is from Earth.com. Turbulent waters off the coast of South Africa. Right down to the point. Here you go. The southern tip of the continent is named Cape Agulhas, which is Portuguese for the Cape of Needles. The moniker is a reference to the sharp rock formations that line the coast. So what makes the water surrounding South Africa so dangerous? Agulhas Bank just so happens to be the very point where a warm ocean current and a cold ocean current converge. Converge. They combine. The Agulhas current brings warm water in from the east at a furious pace, while the slow-moving Benguela current brings cool water from south to north. Thus, in order to sail around the tip of South Africa, one must push against currents on both sides. Shipwrecks are common at Agulhas Bank, where the turbulent currents shoot off rogue waves and eddies. One upside of the rough waters is that nutrients get brought up from the deep surface waters, resulting in large blooms of phytoplankton. The phytoplankton serve as a delicious food source for all kinds of marine life, including Agulhas Bank and plentiful fishing ground. Now, what's an eddy? What does that mean? This is from oceanservice.noaa.gov, which NOAA is National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. What is an eddy? An eddy is a circular current of water. The ocean is a huge body of water that is constantly in motion. General patterns of ocean flow are called currents. Sometimes these currents can pinch off sections and create circular currents of water called an eddy. You may have seen an eddy if you've ever gone canoeing, or you see a small whirlpool of water while you paddle through the water. The swirling motion of eddies in the ocean cause nutrients that are normally found in colder, deeper waters to come to the surface. Significant eddies are assigned names similar to hurricanes. In the U.S., an oceanographic company called Horizon Marine assigns names to each eddy as they occur. The names flow chronologically along with the alphabet and are decided upon by staff at Horizon Marine. The staff try to think of creative ways to assign names. So, an eddy is like a whirlpool. So that's what you have in that region. So the Most High had to hold still all of those waves. He had to hold still all of those rains, because rain occurs in those currents as well. In that current as well, whirlpools. One last thing, earthobservatory.nasa.gov, the treacherous and productive seas of southern Africa. Right here says Cape Agulhas. Mariners have been, jump down to the point. The convergence of two ocean currents, one warm and one cold, in the shallow waters of Agulhas Bank produces turbulent and unpredictable waters. Warm water arrives from the east on the fast-moving Agulhas current, which flows along the east coast of Africa. Meanwhile, the cooler, slower Benguela current flows north along Africa's southwestern coast. That means navigating around the tip of South Africa requires mariners to sail against ocean currents on both sides of the continent. Eventually, they learned to stay well out to sea as they rounded the Cape of Good Hope and Cape Agulhas, but not before failed attempts had littered the area's reefs with wrecked ships. Even in modern times, shipwrecks are relatively common in the turbulent water of Agulhas Bank, where colliding currents regularly spin off rogue waves, eddies, and meanders. What's that? Meanders. Okay, a river or roll following a windy course. Okay. So it's like winds with a lot of curves following the windy course, a winding curve of a bend of a river or road. So it's like a windy curve. So it would have to be winds that's curving in different directions. So when it went into the Euphrates, it brought them right eventually into the Persian Gulf, which led them right into the Agulhas current. And what do you see right here in the middle of your screen? Right here, I don't have a curse. I don't have any like a arrow to point to it, but it's on the top right hand of your screen. That's the Horn of Africa. So the Agulhas current basically is the primary current that stretches in this region. There's other minor currents, other currents around, but that's like the primary one. And that, as you can see, it takes them right here from the Persian Gulf. Okay. As you can see. Give me 1 second. Takes them right here from the Persian Gulf. Same way you see it right here on the map, Persian Gulf. And it leads them right past the Horn of Africa. All the way down. Right in between Mozambique and Madagascar. Just under the southern tip of Africa. As we read, that's where the Agulhas current is at, goes to. Which that leads them right eventually into the Benguela current. Which leads you to the South Equatorial current. Which takes you right into what? Brazil. See that? That's where the currents lead you. So the Most High had to hold still those waters, so all of them different currents. The main current we're dealing with is the Agulhas, because that's the roughest current in the world. Here's another map. See right here? This region here. I'm not going to go back again. This is the Persian Gulf. I should have that now. And that current, as you can see, all these different other currents here. See, the other map we saw didn't mention the Somali current. It just mainly mentioned the Agulhas current, which is still in the same region. But that's the primary current, so that's why it mainly just mentioned that one. As you can see, the Somali current. See the arrows pointing, go right into the Agulhas. And where does the Agulhas current end? Right by the Benguela current. And where does the Benguela current go? So they went right into South Africa, right into the Benguela current, right into the Atlantic Equatorial current, or South Equatorial current, which is also in this region. See right here? Atlantic South Equatorial current. See right there? As we saw on the other map. This takes them right into South America by the Brazil current. How do you know that's Brazil? There you go, the map, Brazil. So when the children of Israel landed in the Western Hemisphere world, they had that landed right in South America, in Brazil, and had then spread out through different regions of South America, Central America, Mexico, America, all over this Western Hemisphere in time. Now, before I close, I want to go to this map again. Now, as you see, some people might look at these maps and say, wait a minute, brother, I see the Agulhas current arrows going the opposite direction. So how is it going into the Benguela current? See this arrow right here under Agulhas? Brother, it's going the opposite way. So how is it going to the Benguela current? Simple. Check this out. This is from Benguela Current Sources and Transports. This is from July 95. Go right to the point. Bear with me. Okay. It says the primary wing means right here. I'm gonna highlight it so you can see where I'm reading from. See if I can highlight it. I'm reading from right here, this sentence. Okay? The primary means by which Agulhas enters the Benguela current is the shedding of large eddies. We already mentioned that an eddy is like a whirlpool. It's the shedding of large eddies at the Agulhas retroflexion. So eventually, the eddies begin to shed. They begin to dissipate at the Agulhas retroflexion. Now, what is a retroflexion? Now, this is where you got to be smart. If you look at the word retroflexion, it's going to say retroflexion is defined as the withholding of emotions, thoughts, and behavior and the redirection back onto the individual. But that's not the kind of retroflexion we're looking at. We're looking at the retroflexion in regards to water currents. So let's go, because the retroflexion is what emotions and thoughts and behavior that's redirected back to the individual. But what's the retroflexion in regards to water currents? That's what we're trying to find out. So you type in retroflexion water current. Retroflexion is the movement of an ocean current that doubles back on itself. So let's go back to that water current map. As you can see, the current is doubling back on itself. It's going back in the other direction. Now, what does it mean? Now, it said a current that doubled back on itself. What does the word double back mean? Double back meaning. Double back, reverse one's course, go back the way one has come. So that's what it means. So if you look at that water current map, it's going back to its course. It's reversing, going back to the direction in which it came. But at the tip here, the eddies begin to shed. They begin to dissipate. So when the Most High heads to all those floods, it allowed it to go right into the Beguila current. Continuing on, finish this up. The primary means, reading from here again, the primary means by which Agula's water enters the Beguila current is the shedding of large eddies at the Agula's retroflexion, though there also may be quasi-stationary branching of the Agula's current. Now, what does the word quasi mean? Quasi means seemingly, apparently, but not really. Right here, type in quasi-stationary. It tells you right here, it says look at the word stationary in weather. A stationary front forms when a cold front or warm front stops moving. This happens when two masses of air are pushing against each other. We mentioned the Agula's current, mentioned the cold water and the warm water converging. We went into all of that. So this is a quasi-stationary branching. So it's like it branches together. It may not go directly into the current, but eventually the eddies begin to dissipate. And the cold front and warm front stops moving, which allows you to be able to then go into the next current. But we know the Most High held still the waters anyway. So let's get this last scripture and let's close it. Psalm 107:29. He maketh the storm a calm, so the waves thereof are still. Then are they glad because they be quiet, so he bringeth them to unto their desired haven. There you go. That haven, that safe place, was the Western Hemisphere of the world. So with that, I'm gonna close. This video is actually about 5 minutes longer than it was originally, but that's okay. So with that, I'm gonna close. I hope you brothers learned something. With that, I'm saying, oh praise to how about Shemel Shah, double on to the positive GMS, Shalom.